With that, we welcome in Jake Trotter, Browns beat reporter for ESPN.com. Jake, thanks for coming in today.
Jake, how are you?
Welcome to our lovely home.
Second time here.
Are you ready for the offseason? I mean, what do you do to prepare for the offseason?
What do I do?
Are you doing push-ups? Are you doing finger exercises? I don't know. What do you want
I try to shed a little of my late December weight. Try to get back in the gym.
Okay.
Try to start eating healthy again. Try to get a little bit of a routine.
Okay.
I've gotten better. The older I've gotten at keeping that routine, but then, earlier it was like September it would fall apart. Now I can push it to like almost Christmas, but last 2-3 weeks of this year was
the holidays. Everybody goes to hell.
Yeah.
Really
and the Texans, Jason knows this. The Texans,
their food spread
is unbelievable.
You leave
off
with
the charts.
diabetes.
Is it the best in the league?
You leave with diabetes.
It's top three.
Is the Browns have the worst in the league?
Bottom three.
Who's in that category?
That's exactly
have you
what
been
Jason
to every
said.
stadium?
Almost.
That's funny because that's not the first time I heard.
Yeah, everybody
this.
says the Browns.
The Browns say that they have a
spread is the worst.
bottom three.
I think they was voted the
It's
worst.
embarrassing, Browns. Let's go.
The Browns gave the writers food poisoning a few years ago. Were you here for that? Or
I mean,
that prior
I
to
was
you?
not. It's better.
Yeah.
It's way better than it used to be.
Yeah.
When I first started.
That's funny
It's
'cause
still
I said-
bottom three.
I said the same.
Jimmy Haslam owns half the state. Can't he have better food for the media? Please. Maybe we'd treat him nicer if he gave us better food.
There was a game last year, the year before, where there was no food pregame because the guy was new and got lost. You remember that?
At the stadium?
He was like pushing the food around somewhere underneath and couldn't find where to go, and there was like no food.
Sounds
At the
like a bad
Browns
dream.
Stadium?
Yeah.
Last year?
It was last year, the year before.
Sometimes it's like that Homer Simpson meme where I walk in and just walk right back
Yeah.
out.
Yep.
You could tell it's
Atlanta is top three.
Okay.
SoFi is top three.
I got
The
it.
Commanders is like the saddest setup ever. Maybe
not a
it'll be
surprise.
different.
Maybe
now.
with a new owner would have changed.
They were
so
last.
the worst are the Browns, Washington, and who? Who else?
Who else would you say, Jason?
Bad.
I think Baltimore's really fallen apart.
Baltimore's gone down. They took away the crab cakes.
So what's better in the division, Bengals or Steelers?
They're both better.
I was not impressed with Cincinnati this year, but both are better than the Browns.
That's crazy.
Browns got big.
Browns are last in the division.
I don't get to travel the games, so I only get the Browns. And
Did you say Minnesota for top?
Minnesota's top three.
Phenomenal.
AFC North is really good at defense and really bad at press box.
All right, so we got Minnesota. So if I have to go to press boxes, Minnesota, Atlanta, Houston. Those are the three to go.
And SoFi would be the
Oh,
other.
and SoFi.
Yeah.
Dallas
I feel
is
like
very
in
good,
Atlanta
too.
they
Very
would have
good.
strippers.
And Cowboy Stadium would be
I
the
haven't been
fifth.
to
yeah.
Dallas.
Do they
Cowboy
have
Stadium's
strippers in the Atlanta press
No,
food?
but they have
They should.
like a carving station.
Oh my God, it's like a wedding.
Ice cream sundae.
Yeah, it's,
really?
Yeah.
Have you been to Vegas? I haven't been to Vegas.
I haven't been to the new Vegas stadium.
I got to imagine Vegas is going to be good.
I would think so.
You going to?
Well,
the
maybe if they build a new stadium,
not
Jake,
this
and we were talking about this a little bit later.
Yeah.
Maybe with a new stadium they'll have improved press box food. Who knows? What's your take on everything that's been rumored about with this potential new stadium?
They're frustrated that they haven't been able to get this off the ground, that they haven't been able to get any momentum for a renovated or a new stadium. So I think they have a lot of contingency plans that they're looking at. That would be really interesting. I don't know that there's a stadium in professional sports that's that close to the airport as that one would be.
Right.
I don't think that's their first choice, right, Jason? But, I'm from Oklahoma City, right? And the ownership there kicked in a $50 million of $900 million renovation. The taxpayers are picking up the rest of it. It passed overwhelmingly in December, and the Browns are like, we can't even get a 50-50 off the ground, much less a 95-5 split. So for whatever reason, as much as this city loves the Browns, they can't get politically a stadium renovation or new stadium construction off the ground.
And I get it. There's a lot of poor people in the city of Cleveland, and it looks kind of unseemly to spend money when a billionaire could afford to pay for the whole thing himself. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And in most of these cases, it's at least 50-50, and we'll see. But
the Thunder could have moved,
Yeah.
right? Like that was something that,
Right.
It's Oklahoma City. You're not entitled to a pro sports team. It's hard to envision any scenario in which the Browns would leave again, right?
they
And
can't.
that gives the city a lot of leverage.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's true.
I mean, the laws were rewritten when the Browns left the last time. They truly, legally, they can't leave without Jimmy having to sell a team.
They can't leave Cleveland,
Yeah.
or they can't leave the Northeast Ohio.
They can't leave this region. They can't.
Okay.
I mean, they can
Right.
leave the city of Cleveland and
Right,
go to
right,
Brook
right.
Park.
Okay, yeah.
But you can't leave the
right.
region.
And why would you? I mean,
Yeah, they're
it
not.
doesn't
That's
make
not
any
happening.
sense. Yeah.
But I will say the one thing that's interesting to me, Zach Meisel and I did a deep dive on like when the Browns did leave the first time, and part of it was exactly this: that the team couldn't engage the city, and the city sort of pushed off the Browns. They were focused on progressive, Jacobs Field at the time. They were focused on bringing the Cavs from Richfield to downtown, and they told the Browns, "We'll take care of you later. We'll get to you. We'll get to you. We'll get to you." And Art ran out of time, money, and patience, and that's how
he
they
was a
wound up.
bad owner.
Well, he was, and
Yeah.
that's how they wound up in Baltimore. And now I think that Jake's 100% right. The city's been slow to come to the table. I think the city's looking at this as this isn't until 2028. There are more pressing matters that we are dealing with at City Hall than you guys. You're going to have to wait your turn. And personally, I think that's the wrong approach. I've talked to people who do stadium deals, and they say the time to do it is now. That's not the Browns saying that. That's people who have built these stadiums and
Right.
said, you need to work on this 3, 4, 5, 6 years out. You can't
Yeah.
wait until the last minute to do that.
And don't think that Deshaun Watson trade was made independent of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
They're not,
But
what
is he
way?
going to be the quarterback when that new stadium is built?
I don't know, but
In
if
saying
you can generate some, like if
Right,
the
right,
team
okay.
is 10-1,
Yeah.
it is a lot easier to do this.
Sure.
Versus when your quarterback is out for the year with the shoulder injury.
I do think though that Jimmy's got a lot of PR. There, a lot of people don't like him. And
No,
the
'cause he's-
the FBI scandal.
Yeah.
And the Deshaun thing that didn't go over well with
And
a
this
ton of
whole
great
thing
fans.
with selling Pilot Flying
and
J,
the-
they
and
inflated the
sued
numbers,
by
whatever
Warren
that was.
Buffett and all that. Like
Yeah.
there's some hurdles there that
Yeah.
if you're going to put something on the ballot and you want public money, and I don't know what you think. I don't think he's paying for the whole thing. I think he sold Pilot to put up his portion of it. I don't see him writing a check for $2 billion to build a brand new stadium.
I don't think that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
No. But, okay, well, but
Jimmy
one
didn't get to where he is by spending his own money on
That's
everything.
exactly right.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, Jason said earlier that he thinks now that he didn't think at one point they were going to put a roof on a new building. Now he thinks they will. Do you agree?
I mean,
Seems
I
like
would
a
have said
no-brainer.
no. Now
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if the stadium was going to stay downtown in
Yeah.
the vicinity of where it is, no, they weren't going to do a dome. They were going to do a renovation. But if that runs into a barrier and they have to rethink this whole thing, then I would say anything is on the table. I wouldn't predict a dome stadium. I don't think that they are thinking that big. Because how much would that cost?
$2
Jason?
billion.
Yeah, I mean, it
But
just
wouldn't that create more events and other? I just think.
So you get a Super Bowl maybe
Yeah.
once, and you get a couple Final Fours, and
I think the fans would prefer it. I know there's some.
I would prefer it.
Yeah, I mean,
some of these games get windy and
Yeah,
cold.
it's awful.
You know?
My personal opinion, just my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think they were ever serious about renovating that stadium. I think that was posturing. I think it was them being able to throw up their hands later and say, well, we tried. We
The
did our
Browns?
Yes, the Browns. We did our due diligence on this. I think the stadium is crap. It's a really big pig, and there's not enough lipstick in the world to fix it. And you certainly can't put a roof on an existing building that's never been done. That's a stupid idea that will never be done.
No,
Right.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
not it. You'd have
And-
to rebuild the whole thing. That's
Yeah,
why I
yeah.
never thought a dome was viable, even if it did make sense.
Right. Unless they move somewhere else. Let's talk about something else, Jake, because we were talking earlier about, all the coaching changes, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Are you surprised by any of this? Did you see this coming? Because it didn't seem like the type of season that they needed to make all these wholesale changes on the offense.
I was a little bit surprised, not by some of the moves were not surprising. Stump Mitchell was not surprising to me.
Okay.
TC, I don't think he had a big enough role for us to be surprised either way. AVP was a tiny bit surprising to me. I didn't see that coming. He's really, Jason would probably agree, very well thought of in that building, not only by players, Deshaun included, but by other coaches. So, and he didn't technically get fired. They were going to demote him and give him an option to stay as a running backs or tight ends coach, to which
Yeah.
he said, forget that. And
Yeah.
obviously, he's above that at this point in his career. He's the play caller for the Patriots now. So I was a little bit surprised that it's gotten to this point, gotten this big. But, I knew that if Callahan's son got a head coaching job, he was probably going to go.
Right.
I thought they might make a change at running backs coach. But the fact that it's gotten to this point where the entire staff is going to be new, and maybe, Chad O'Shea, his closest friend on the staff was AVP, and they still didn't need a receivers coach. They still didn't need a bunch of coaches. So may not be done. it's a completely new offensive staff. And given the kind of season they just had, it is surprising. But when you think about it, what does this all come back to?
Deshaun Watson.
And he wasn't part of the run they had late in the year. And when he
not.
did play, it was like this all over again. And it can't be like that if this team's going to be a true Super Bowl contender.
That's fair.
Do you think, well, since O'Shea and AVP are really close, do you think it'll be in a scenario where AVP is like, hey, I offer you a position on the Patriots staff?
Yeah.
And you think he'd take it?
Well, it's not his to offer, but he would definitely recommend.
Yeah, recommend it, yeah.
O'Shea was in New England a decade before he was in Cleveland. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. That would be something to watch out for.
It wouldn't shock me. All right, so looking at the Browns team defensively, everybody's talking about we need to get these wide receiver too, but I want to look on the defensive side of the ball. Opposite of Miles, do you think they bring back Zadarius Smith, or how do you think they address that other defensive end spot?
I think we're kind of in the hamster wheel again, where maybe they bring him back, maybe they look around. If they get wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1, then maybe they don't spend a lot of money at defensive end. If they strike out everywhere at receiver, maybe they're like, well, let's spend some more money defensively, get a bigger defensive end, or another player defensively. I think it just kind of depends what opportunities are there. But going into this offseason, receiver, from everything I've heard, is the priority. Now, it may not happen this offseason. It might be next offseason. But in the short term, that's where they're looking.
And Andrew Berry, obviously, you can't believe what he says in a press conference. He said, oh, no, it's not the biggest priority, but obviously it is. And you're saying you're hearing that. I mean, do you believe they'll be aggressive? Because there's a lot of, number one or at least borderline number one free agent wide receivers here. Now, probably Pittman will get franchised, and I think T. Higgins will get franchised. We'll see. They should if they can't sign him. But guys like Calvin Ridley, Marquise Brown, Mike Evans.
Mike Evans would be the name to watch, I think.
Okay, really? Mm-hmm. Even though he's not, they're looking, obviously we've been talking about a speed guy. Mike Evans is not really a speed guy at this point in his career, but he's a great player.
He produces.
So
he's kind of like Amari in that way, where and Mike has probably, Amari's been, healthy until the last couple of years, and even he's played through injuries, but that's a reliable, he's older, but again, time is now. Like this.
But you think they're going to be aggressive after that group of guys?
Yeah, and I don't know. So, like you said, what if T. Higgins gets tagged?
Yeah.
What if Pittman goes back to Indy? What if Ridley, re-signs with Jacksonville, or and they don't. They might not be able to offer the most to all these guys, right? Like they're pretty tapped out. I mean, they're the most expensive team in the NFL. They have cap space because of the way they've manipulated the salary cap, but. They were the most expensive team in the NFL this past season. They're going to be the next season, probably the year after that. So there's limited resources to what they can do, and I don't know that they have the scratch to make a big trade. I mean, receivers are going for 2 first-round picks. They don't even have one to trade. And that Amari Cooper deal that they made, I mean, like that might be the best move that Andrew Berry has made. They got him for a 5th rounder right before everybody was going for 2 first-rounders.
I know.
And Amari's a Pro Bowl player.
Well, where would they be at that position without him?
Sunk.
They were probably thinking by now they could move off him, but they haven't been able to develop anybody else at the position, so obviously they got to keep him.
David Bell was their number 2 receiver, basically going into the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Because Elijah was banged up. Yeah. Tillman had the concussion. Marquise Goodwin never got going. Who else am I forgetting, Jason? I mean, they just never.
No, that covers
it. DPJ.
Thankfully for them, David Njoku became a Pro Bowl top 5 tight end in the NFL, which I didn't see that coming.
Not to this level.
When they extended him, that was a home run contract as well. So they have enough, but as we've seen in the AFC, you're probably going to need more.
You think they restructured Deshaun?
I think they're going to do it every offseason until the end of time.
Hey, listen, there are plenty of bad things to say about Jimmy Haslam. I've ripped him 1,000 times.
He spends.
The one thing you can say, he spends a ton of money. He don't care. I'll give him.
They would not be able to do what they've been doing.
No,
they can't. You wouldn't be able to do all these contract restructures if the owner was like, I can't pay, the highest salary in the NFL for a team that
true.
doesn't even win its division.
Not to mention they convert a lot of that into signing bonus that's due right now.
Yeah.
Or
It's like
close
the
to.
NBA equivalent of like they're a luxury tax team, but they're not, a top 4 or 5 team in their conference
No.
like the NBA.
We were talking earlier in the show about, we really hadn't talked about this before today. What do you do at tackle? Because now you basically have 3 starting tackles if Jack's healthy.
Yeah.
Jack and Jed, what do you do with DeWand? Our concern was if you put DeWand on the bench, he's going to be 400 pounds. Can you trust him to stay disciplined?
Kind of think Jack is the odd man
Even
out.
with that
Really?
salary, you think?
Or
He
that could
probably
be a guy they could, try to move on from.
I was saying the same thing. The contract is pretty big. I guess if he's healthy.
I don't
they
know
need
off the top
someone.
of my head what his. Do you know what his?
Dead money,
His
27
dead money
million.
I got it
massive.
right here for you guys.
Yeah,
but-
they can't cut him. It's like $28 million.
Yeah,
in dead
he's
money.
owed
Yeah.
$27.5 million in
Ooh.
dead money. His cap hit this year is $12 million.
you'd
Jed
have-
was playing pretty well before the injury.
It's at the
It
same
was kind of a low key development. He really turned a corner for about a month there. It was like the San Francisco game until when he got hurt. Jed played really well. I imagine they're going to leave him at left tackle. And I don't know. I don't know what they. I don't
Yeah.
know what they do.
How
It is
much-
tricky.
How much do you think? How much do you credit to Jed, DeWan, or Bill Callahan? Because he's gone now. So do you think that production continues to go the same with Dickerson?
I don't know. Bill Callahan was a top
Yeah.
3 offensive line coach in the NFL, and we never talked about their tackles late in the year because they were fine.
It was serviceable, yeah.
Yeah, they were like they weren't great, but
No.
you didn't notice them getting beat. And their schemes have always been really good in the run game.
Yeah.
I think it's a big loss. It's not like they're not going to be able to. Joel Bitonio's still an All-Pro.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with Teller, but
Yeah.
they've got enough to be good. But it is a loss, and you're going to really feel it when they have these injuries. And it's like Michael Dunn's out there and
Yeah.
Blake
Yeah.
Hance and. They don't miss a beat.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to be like that.
It's interesting, too, because, we mentioned the tackles, but Wyatt Teller was like a 5th-round pick, and he got traded to the Browns for nothing.
7th rounder. That was John Dorsey, I believe.
Right.
was
Yeah.
Dorsey.
No, but my point is,
Because
like,
they missed on the other
Bill
guard that he
Callahan,
drafted.
I mean, if Wyatt Teller would have just stayed in Buffalo, maybe he would have never been this player.
Yeah, Wyatt
You know?
Teller definitely developed. It's a great point.
Yeah.
What do
So-
you think about the running back after Nick Chubb? Obviously, Nick Chubb is.
Well, is Nick Chubb first definitely going to be back?
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
that's
2 things with Nick Chubb.
Yeah, restructure.
When is he going to be back?
Yeah.
I think he's going to be back in Cleveland. I think they're going to figure it out.
Okay.
But when is he back? Don't think it's going to be for week 1. And then when he gets back, what does he look like?
Are you comfortable with Jerome Ford again?
So I think that they will draft a running back.
Okay.
They should.
I think 3rd, 4th, 5th round, somewhere in that range.
Oh, they're gonna get Blake Corum.
Yeah, they're going to.
No, he'll be drafted for the 3rd round, though.
I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think he's gonna test that well. But I think when I look at Blake Corum, the reason I say that is because he is kind of like a Kareem Hunt in a smaller body. Very good short yardage. He does not fumble the football, and he converts and scores touchdowns on the 1 or 2 yard line.
I could see Chubb, at
Yeah.
least initially, being the Kareem Hunt back, being kind of the short yardage.
Hunt's
they went-
gone, right? They're not bringing him back, are they?
I don't think they bring Hunt back.
no.
No. So you have Pierre Strong,
Yeah.
you'll have Jerome, you'll have Chubb, and then you would have this hypothetical running back from the Sun Belt Conference who probably would be
Sun
more than
Belt.
serviceable.
Yeah.
Seems like every year there's a running back out of the Sun Belt
Yeah.
who can play. I thought Chubb, that week and a half before he got hurt, was the best he had ever looked.
He looked phenomenal.
He was averaging more than 6. I thought he was going to run for like 1,800 yards if he'd
What-
stayed healthy.
had
He
that-
was unstoppable. It was such a shame he got
Yeah.
hurt. And I'm just, he's getting older, same leg.
He is. The only reason I feel like I think of him like I thought of Adrian Peterson. If anybody can come back
No doubt.
great from it, it's Nick Chubb.
No
'Cause
doubt.
You know nobody's going to outwork him.
No question. But it's going to be tough. And I don't know. Now, could Chubb get back and be a 1,000-yard rusher again? Sure. Is he going to be the same player? That's going to be tough.
It is tough, yeah.
With
It's
that,
fair.
with the 2nd round pick, what do you think they do with it? What would you like them to do?
I mean, again, it depends, but I wouldn't rule out wide receiver again.
That's exactly where I'd go.
Yeah.
Now, do you think they draft one, or do you think they try and trade for another receiver? Like they did
Like
last
Elijah
year with-
Moore.
like Elijah.
Again, it depends. So, like, let's say they sign Mike Evans, right? Then I don't think you trade that pick
No,
for a
yeah.
receiver, but you could still draft him.
Right.
I mean,
That's
they were low key depleted at receiver at the end of the year, and even
Yeah.
the guys that were hurt, Like, I don't know what to make of Cedric Tillman. I don't know what to make of Elijah Moore. I don't know what to make of Marquise Goodwin. It's not like other than Amari, you had someone super reliable that was consistent that you could really count on. And I thought Elijah started to come on late in the year when Joe Flacco took over, but then he got hurt. It was hard to really evaluate where he was.
I know Tillman was just drafted last year, but David Bell and Elijah Moore, do you think they're both locks to be on the roster next year?
Locks to be on the roster. I mean, I wouldn't call them locks, but probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
All right, last thing. We're getting back to the coaching, we'll wrap with this. You know, obviously in the press conference, Ken Dorsey was asked about play calling. Stefanski preemptively, before you guys could ask him, said we haven't decided yet. The wind seems to be blowing that Dorsey's going to call the plays. It also, you know, there's been rumors that this is being forced on him. Do you believe it's being forced on him? And do you think Ken Dorsey will call plays?
I think Stefanski has enough juice in the building now that they can't force him to do anything.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about Coach of the Year probably, maybe twice in 4 years.
Yeah.
Deservingly so. I mean, what he did this year with the different quarterbacks and the injuries was outstanding. He's going to be the medium to long-term coach of the future here in Cleveland. But I think that had Alex Van Pelt stayed, they would have just gone status quo. The fact that they made the move has given them the opportunity to reevaluate, and I think that's what's happening right now. But I am with you. It does feel like it's trending toward Dorsey calling plays. I think they just have to work through it. You know, Dorsey had only been there just a few days before that press conference. I think they're gonna talk some more. But yeah, if you ask me where I would bet today, I would bet that Ken Dorsey is the play caller. And this is not an indictment on Kevin, because I think Kevin's a brilliant play caller. It's just that the system that they want to run is not Kevin's MO. He doesn't come from 5 wide RPO, whatever they're going to do. And, you know, it's just been choppy with that. I don't know that that's necessarily Kevin's fault, but I think they're just trying to get some different ideas in here. Again,
interesting. That's
why they made the move initially. They trying to get Watson to – this is a huge year for Watson.
No doubt.
With Dorsey,
make or break.
With Dorsey coming here, does that make Gabe Davis more attractive?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want anything to do with Gabe Davis.
I'm just saying because his offensive coordinator.
Gabe Davis is Elijah Moore 2.0.
So that's the only reason I bring it up.
And is Stefanski fair?
Stefan Diggs.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they act like it's crazy.
Anytime soon?
I think it'll happen. It's just
all right,
whenever.
Yeah.
Should happen already.
Good stuff, Jake. Appreciate you.
Now, if they wait till after Thursday, price is going up. If he wins that second coach, price
if you're Kevin, you're probably like, well, let's see if I win this. I'm not in any hurry to sign the extension.
All right, Jake. Thanks for stopping by.
Guys. Appreciate it.
That is Jake Trotter.